The movie starts on an island in Germany called Peacock Island. We're with a kid named Andrea while he's riding his bike coming back from his school. It shows that Andrea is busy with his phone and not focusing on the road to the point that he doesn't see a police car coming toward him. The car is about to hit him because the officer stops it at the last second. The officer's name is Dan, and he warns Andrea not to use his phone while he's walking on the road. But Andrea ignores him, leaves him, and walks away. After that, Dan hears on the radio a host named Patrick. Patrick is talking about the rich people who are fighting nature and climate factors and using chemicals. They want to change the climate for their projects. Patrick says there's a club on Peacock Island whose owner uses certain chemicals to melt the ice on the golf courses and grow grass in its place. Consequently, the rich people can keep playing golf all year round. At night, Dan calls his daughter Patty, who works at the golf club. Dan asks his daughter when she'll finish her work so he can go pick her up from there. She tells him she'll finish work late and asks him to go to sleep, and she'll return home when she's done. The golf club has workers from a company called M wearing protective suits and spraying a green chemical on the course ground. This substance is what helps melt the ice and spread the grass. With them is Michael, the club owner, who gives them instructions not to exceed the allowed proportions for them. At that time, Andrea is sitting in his room, and the nanny named Camelia goes to him. Camelia finds out that his mom is very late. Camelia tells him that her house is outside the island, and she has to leave because her family is waiting for her. She asks him to take care of his sister Annie until his mom returns from work. Andrea gets worried because he's not used to taking care of his sister, and he's scared he won't know how to deal with her. Camelia reassures him and tells him she prepared her food and everything for her. As soon as Camelia leaves, Annie wakes up and cries. Andrea goes to her and tries to quiet her down in every way until finally his mom comes from work. The next day, Andrea wakes up and finds his mom asking him to take care of his sister until Camelia comes. This is because she's late for her work and can't wait for her. Andrea stays waiting for Camelia, but she doesn't come. So Andrea is forced to skip his school and stay with Annie at home, feed her, and change her diaper. At the same time, Dan goes to drop off his daughter Patty at her job at the golf club. After that, Marcel and his wife Maud arrive, and she has her dog named Ruby. Michael welcomes them very warmly because they are his partners in the club. Marcel and Maud came to the island to see the golf course after it was finished and is now ready for them to operate. They go to the course and start trying to play on it, but as soon as the ball goes inside the hole, the green chemical spreads into the soil. It goes down into the drinking water pipes. One of the city residents drinks from this water while he's buying groceries from the supermarket. He feels a bit tired, so he goes back to his house quickly. He notices that his teeth turn green. He tries to wipe them, but he can't. Suddenly, something very strange happens to his body. He runs quickly to his wife, who is in the bathroom, and attacks her, biting her neck. Here we know that the green substance sprayed by Company M on the ice has a virus. It's clear that the virus spread in this person's body and turned him into a zombie. His wife also turns into a zombie after he bites her. At that time, Marcel is done playing and is standing with Maud and Michael in front of the club building. Suddenly, they see the employees coming out of the building and running away from the place. They are surprised and don't understand what's happening. Suddenly, the dog Ruby comes out and attacks Maud, bites her, and turns her into a zombie. Marcel and Michael run to hide inside the building, but the dog runs after them and bites Marcel in his leg, and he also turns into a zombie. Michael gets scared and runs away from him. He goes toward the kitchen, grabs a knife, and stands behind the door to protect himself if anyone attacks him. At the same time, Officer Dan gets a report from an old lady complaining about the disturbance her neighbors are making. He goes to her in his car quickly. As soon as he approaches the neighbor's house, he finds that everyone in the house has become zombies. Suddenly, the old lady turns into a zombie too and runs after Dan to bite him. But Dan manages to escape from her, gets in his car, and closes the window on himself. He doesn't understand anything that's happening. He calls his daughter to check on her. When he finds her not answering, he gets very worried about her and sends her a message telling her what happened to the people on the island. He warns her to take care of herself and asks her to stay in her place until he goes to her. At the house, Andrea is with his sister and his mom returns from work. She asks him to make the formula for his sister. Andrea goes toward the faucet to take water from it. His mom stops him and asks him to use water from the bottle designated for his sister in the fridge. At night, Andrea comes out of his room, and suddenly he sees his mom transforming, and her shape looks weird. She attacks him to bite him. Andrea runs out of the house, scared and terrified of his mom, who is running after him. Suddenly, Dan comes driving his car fast to go to his daughter. He hits Andrea's mom by mistake, so Andrea's mom falls on the ground. Dan gets startled and gets out of his car. He discovers she turned into a zombie like the people he saw and escaped from. Dan warns Andrea and explains that his mom isn't the only one this happened to, and that there are many people like her in the city. While they are talking and seeing many people infected with the virus coming toward them, Dan asks Andrea to enter the house to be safe. He gets in his car and leaves quickly. Andrea pulls his mom by her legs and enters the house without letting her touch him. He locks her inside the bathroom and closes the door quickly. Andrea tries to call the police, but he hears a recorded message to all Peacock Island residents. The police ask them to stay in their houses and not open the door for anyone, no matter who it is. At that moment, Annie cries loudly, and this attracts the attention of the zombies in the street. They go toward the house door and try to break in. Andrea tries to quiet her down so the zombies leave and stay away from them. It shows that Andrea is very scared and doesn't know what to do. At the club at that time, Patty is hiding so no one sees her. She talks to her father in a low voice and tells him she's scared because the zombies are everywhere around her. He tells her he's on his way to her and asks her not to move from her place. When Dan reaches the club, he meets 3 zombies, and they attack him, but he hits them all and enters to his daughter quickly and closes the building door. At that time, on the island bridge, the police forces are coming from the city. They are surprised by very large numbers of zombies standing on the bridge. The officer calls his commander and informs him they won't be able to enter the island. They take their cars and go back to the city. Later, the government decides to blow up the bridge to prevent the spread of zombies outside the island. The next day, Camelia goes toward the bridge to go to her work, but she is surprised that the bridge is destroyed. She gets very worried and surprised by what's happening. At that time on the island, Andrea sees the minister on the news apologizing because he destroyed the bridge. He says he had no other way to ensure the infection doesn't spread outside the island. Later, Andrea goes to the bathroom to check on his mom and give her food. Annie comes from behind him without him noticing and crawls on the floor until she gets close to her mom, who wants to attack her and bite her. Andrea gets startled and draws his mom's attention to him, so she leaves his sister and goes after him. Andrea manages to lure her and make her come out of the bathroom and stay away from his sister. Suddenly, the TV screen falls on his mom's head and she dies. Andrea gets very sad and feels guilty and goes back again to the bathroom. After that, he takes his sister and decides to come out with her from the house. He stands behind the door and opens it. He waits for all the zombies standing in front of the door to enter the house. He and his sister come out afterward without any of them seeing him. But while he's walking in the street, a group of zombies who fill the streets attack him. He escapes from them and goes toward the supermarket. Andrea is shocked when he finds all the doors locked and that he's surrounded by zombies. They are about to bite him. Suddenly, the supermarket door opens and someone pulls him inside. It's Dan who pulled Andrea and saved him from the zombies. Dan tells Andrea he's been here since yesterday and doesn't know how to get out because of the zombies everywhere. After that, Andrea looks in the supermarket for food for his sister Annie. He notices there's a woman infected with the virus locked inside the vegetable fridge. It turns out she is Dan's daughter Patty, and he has her locked up because he has hope she'll get better and return to her normal self again. At the same time, at the club, Michael calls the owners of Company M to send him a plane to take him from the island. It shows that Michael knows the reason for everything happening is the substance he bought from Company M to set up the golf course with. They inform him they will send employees from their side to eliminate the virus. They ask him to get rid of anything proving they have any connection to what's happening. Night comes, and Dan and Andrea are sitting eating. They hear Patrick's radio program. Patrick is talking with the minister about his decision that he will eliminate all Peacock Island residents. This is for the sake of saving the city and the whole world before the virus spreads, which until now, no one at all knows its cause. After Patrick finishes his call with the minister, Dan calls him and tells him he's one of the island residents and he has 2 kids with him and also his daughter infected with the virus. Dan asks Patrick to help them get out of the island so he can treat his daughter. Patrick refuses to help him because this would help spread the virus more. Dan gets angry at him and hangs up in his face. After that, Dan talks with Andrea, and they think about the reason for the virus's spread and how it moves between people on the island. Dan guesses that the water is the reason because all the people drink from one source. They believe someone put this virus in the water. Andrea says they shouldn't stay in the supermarket long, and they must look for a treatment to protect themselves from the virus, because this way, they won't be safe. The next day, 2 girls from Company M employees arrive on the island, but they are armed and kill all the zombies they find in their way. At that time, Michael is burning all the contracts between him and Company M, which prove he was contracted with them to prepare the golf course. It shows he still has a sample of the substance that has the virus. The 2 girls enter him, and he thinks they are coming to solve the problem as the company told him. But he is surprised when they put the toxic substance in his mouth to poison him, so he turns into a zombie and dies. At that time, Camelia calls Patrick and asks him to talk to the government and ask them to send the army forces to save the people who haven't been infected yet. Patrick tells her the government won't gamble and risk the lives of 1 million people to save 2,000 people living on the island. He refuses to continue talking with her and ends the call. At that time, Dan and Andrea come out of the supermarket and go to the car. Dan has taken his daughter with him after putting her head inside a closed box so she doesn't hurt any of them. He moves toward the place that pumps water into the island. There, they leave the back of the car and lock it on her and take Patty with them. As soon as they enter, Patty sees the water tank and gets attracted to it and throws herself inside it. Dan goes after her to get her out, but he finds a zombie present in the water. Suddenly, the zombie comes out and attacks Andrea. Andrea escapes from it quickly until he reaches the car and gets in with his sister. He stays waiting for Dan to return. At that time, Dan is trying to pull his daughter and get her out of the water until her hand gets pulled off in his hand. Dan gets very sad about what happened to his daughter. He takes her with him and comes out of the place quickly. Dan discovers that the zombies don't attack him because he's carrying his daughter and she's a zombie like them. After that, Dan and his daughter get in the car. As soon as Andrea sees Patty's hand, he uses it to open her phone because she's the only one among them who has a phone. Dan notices there's green grass spreading inside Patty's hand. Dan concludes here that the reason behind all this is the green substance the rich use in the golf course. This is because the golf course is the only place on the island that has grass in the winter season. They go to the club quickly to discover the truth. At that time, the 2 girls from Company M had gone to the golf course. They use balls with a certain substance inside that eliminates the virus present in the grass. Dan and Andrea arrive at the club and find all the doors locked. Dan goes up to the roof and manages to enter the building. He opens the door, takes his daughter, and locks her in a room alone. Andrea puts his sister Annie in a certain place and surrounds her with chairs so she's safe. After that, he goes with Dan to look for the substance that was the reason for the virus's spread. Andrea films everything happening around him with Patty's mobile. By chance, while they are looking, they see the dog infected with the virus, but it has reached a late stage and its body is covered with green grass. Dan gets sad when he sees it because he's afraid his daughter will reach this stage and they won't be able to treat her. They decide to split up. Each one of them goes looking in a direction to save time. When Andrea returns, he discovers his sister Annie isn't in the place where he left her. He runs to look for her everywhere inside the club. In another place, Dan finds bombs fixed on gas cylinders and about to explode. He keeps walking in the direction of the wires to try to prevent the explosion. Suddenly, Dan discovers he got infected with the virus. Dan falls on the ground from fatigue, but he pushes through. At the last moment, he manages to stop the bomb's countdown and stops it. At that moment, the 2 girls are still present in the course and notice the countdown stopped. They decide to return to the building again to know what's happening. There they find Annie sitting on the floor in the kitchen. One of them pulls out the toxic substance she has and puts it on the floor in front of Annie for her to eat it. They leave her and walk away. After that, Andrea comes and sees his sister. He's happy he found her and picks her up to get her out of the place. But he's surprised by the 2 girls coming toward him and trying to put the green substance in his mouth. Suddenly, Annie turns into a zombie and bites one of those 2 girls. At the same moment, Dan attacks the second girl after he turned into a zombie and bites her neck. A ball from those containing the substance that eliminates the virus falls from the girl. Andrea steps on it by mistake. Very thick, white smoke comes out of the ball, and Annie smells it. Dan is about to attack Andrea, but he pulls back because he also smelled the smoke and his condition started to improve. After that, Andrea takes Annie and Dan and locks them with his daughter in the same room. The two girls stand facing each other and are shocked they got infected with the virus. Each of them pulls out her gun and they finish each other off. At this moment, Andrea does a live broadcast and explains to the people what's happening. He shows them everything he filmed on the island. They find out that the infected's bodies turn green after a period of infection. He says he needs someone to help him and his sister. The video spreads everywhere, and the host Patrick sees it. He asks Andrea to speak on the radio. He says the government must help the residents of this island. After a bit, it shows that the government responded to Patrick's words and sends the army forces to the island. But they get rid of everyone present there and don't distinguish between the infected and the non-infected. Andrea sees them and gets scared of them. He takes his sister and escapes with her far away. The forces reach Dan and his daughter, whose virus had disappeared from his body already because of the substance he smelled. He tells them he's not infected, but they set him and his daughter on fire without making sure of his words. At that moment, the minister announces that the situation has been controlled and the spread of the infection has been prevented. While he's talking, he drinks from a cup that has the mark of Company M on it. We find out the minister is the owner of Company M and that he is basically the reason for everything happening. At that time, Andrea has reached the river and sees Camellia coming to the island herself in a boat to save him and his sister, who has also recovered already from the virus and returned to her normal self again. As soon as Andrea and his sister get on the boat, he throws Patty's hand that was with Dan into the river. A fish comes to eat from Patty's hand. After moments, this fish turns into a zombie and the movie ends. Don't forget to subscribe to the Film Chino channel on YouTube and also follow the new account on Facebook. I'll leave the link for you in the first comment. And now, peace.